Xiao Xiong walked slowly, tiredly, up the stairs. Suddenly, the key in his pocket fell out. But when he heard the sound of the key hitting the floor, he looked back at it hesitantly. Then, he let out a careless word because he didn't need it anymore. Then, Xiao Xiong went to the rooftop, finished the beer can in his hand. He was 26 years old, a standard man, but still single. Are you wondering if this guy has a problem in his head? He doesn't even need the house key, because Xiao Xiong won't go home anymore. 3 years ago, more precisely 1096 days ago, he and his old friends studied together and came to this city to start a career. Country bumpkins coming to the city, life was not easy, they went through many hardships together. Sleeping on the floor, overcoming the months of debt. Then things gradually got better, but on the exact day of the 1-year anniversary of the company's establishment, his friend erased Xiao Xiong's name from the file and took away everything he had. After that incident, the first thing Xiao Xiong thought of was wanting to start over again. But he had lost everything, and there was no way to get out of this abyss of pain. In his heart, Xiao Xiong was angry, confused, but most of all, miserable. He locked himself in his room for a month, not in contact with the outside world, slowly chewing on the loneliness and despair. Until they completely covered his mind, and now Xiao Xiong didn't know how to end this mood. Except for death, he didn't see any brighter option. Then, Xiao Xiong threw himself into the endless void, feeling like he could finally escape. In this moment, the raindrops fell and wet his clothes, making Xiao Xiong feel like they were the last drops of rain. Then a loud sound of Buddha rang out, and when he opened his eyes, he saw himself lying on a pile of garbage. Then, he sat up, hugged his head to calm down, realized that he hadn't died yet, how high his life was that he couldn't even die, how much of a failure he was. Even death couldn't kill him. But when he raised his hand to cover his mouth, he smelled the strong smell of blood from his palm. What was more surprising was that Xiao Xiong was not injured, but blood stained his palm. Suddenly, in the garbage bags next to him, there was a constant rustling sound that caught his attention. When Xiao Xiong glanced over, he was shocked by a surprising thing. From the trash bags, a hand came out, then it grew up a head. Just like everyone was seeing, it was only the head and the chest. The rest from the belly to the legs was quite far away. Right after witnessing this horror movie scene, according to reflexes, Xiao Xiong went crazy and ran away screaming. As he ran, he also wondered, was he a zombie? But how could it be that this world was not dead? He felt very clearly the sound of rain, heartbeat, breathing and pain, all very real. It meant that he was still alive. He ran for a while, came out of the city, saw that the people there grew clothes on him, completely normal, but their skin had turned pale. They all had a shape similar to those zombies in legends. Everywhere were zombies, making Xiao Xiong wonder if he had been at home for a month or so. What had happened in the world outside must have been some kind of apocalypse in the crowd of zombies. There were still a few people who had not been infected and kept begging for help. But eventually, the minority could not win against the majority. He was surrounded by zombies who squeezed him tightly. Xiao Xiong stood right in front of them and witnessed them tearing apart living people. His stomach could not be contained anymore. But now it was not his time to be shocked, because if he did not escape from here, then his next prey would be Xiao Xiong. He ran for a while through the crowd of zombies, but then saw far away there was a figure that did not look like the others. Just as he noticed it right away, this figure looked at him intently, then screamed like it started to go crazy. So its face looked crazy, angry, fierce, like fire coming towards him, making Xiao Xiong lose all his soul. Because it was too far away, it could also detect him. Seeing that he also only knew how to run and how to jump on nothing to extend the distance, the zombie who was crazy on its way lapped through every small gap to hunt down Xiao Xiong. At the middle of an intersection, it started to turn sideways, confused because he had managed to escape into one of the speeds of zombies that did not slow down. Then this one was even more superior than before. This time he did not hesitate to raise his hand. Sharp metal this time surely will kill him. A human only a few minutes before dying up and down, then again had to run away from death. At this moment someone behind his back kept hitting him repeatedly as if he had been discovered his state. At this moment Xiao Xiong did not know if he was scared of dying or not, but definitely his back could not stop it. Just now he jumped off a roof, tried to commit suicide, then again ran like a dog. Not knowing why, seeing them chasing after him, Xiao Xiong only wanted to run desperately. Every time he saw these disgusting things, he couldn't stop himself. But clearly, if he let them bite, he could be satisfied. His body didn't listen to his mind, and he wanted to run away. Could this be the instinct of fear? He felt that anyway. Jumping off the building was not the same as being torn apart by these monsters, piece by piece. Xiao Xiong thought so because he forced himself to think that it was for another reason. But as he ran, more zombies appeared on the stairs, making Xiao Xiong scared stiff. At this moment, he realized that what he was looking for was not death. He remembered a month ago, Xiao Xiong still hoarsely advised, thinking that he and his friend were good brothers. But he mocked such a simple morality, and Xiao Xiong didn't know how to explain why he ended up like this. People who had no value to exploit were thrown into the trash. It was too secret, so he had to go to the bank to borrow money. But they thought that Xiao Xiong's human credit score was too low, so he didn't qualify for a loan at the bank. Even if he wasted a bucket of saliva to beg, the answer was still the same. At this time, he just wanted to escape from the pit of despair in his own way. Right after that, Xiao Xiong ran straight to the top of the stairs, directly kicked the zombie blocking the way in the chest. He had a strong desire to live more than ever. Every time he met a zombie blocking the way that looked annoying, Xiao Xiong would chase and hit them and then act without hesitation. No matter which plastic pig came out last, he would also shout that he would definitely not die here. Although he wanted to commit suicide a few minutes ago, he changed his mind. Suicide didn't solve the misery, so he wouldn't die anymore. Behind him, the crazy zombie had chased him to his butt. At this time, it was furious, making its eyes red with murderous intent. Then it immediately jumped straight up and swung its arm, wanting to swallow Xiao Xiong alive. But he had a grudge in his heart, wanting to kill his dog friend that time, so he had to survive. At this moment, he received a notification to activate the system. At the same time, the arm of the crazy zombie seemed to stab straight into Xiao Xiong's face, but it flew past his ear. He waited for a long time without hearing his name being called to drink soup. Xiao Xiong opened his eyes and saw that he was still alive. Around him were all the sounds of the system. Xiao Xiong activated the end of the world company system. He received a new mission, describing the first employee to hire for the company, and eliminating the threat to his life. The system is looking for potential candidates. A few seconds later, it announced that the search was successful and the employee could be hired, named Xiao Yu. In front of him was a system management table, with red circles shining brightly. At this time, Xiao Xiong had many questions. For example, why was the first employee a zombie in front of him? Why did the system keep announcing that it wanted to hire more employees? After reading the question, he hesitated and saw the zombies approaching him. With this situation, Xiao Xiong quickly raised his index finger to the sky. Since he had no other choice, he pressed to agree. Immediately, Zombie Gao in front of Xiao Xiong clapped his two hands together and then cried like a newborn baby. At this time, the system announced that it had successfully hired an employee with a stable rate of 89%. Then Zombie Gao no longer had his old appearance anymore. Instead he had a twisted body with pink skin and a pile of hair flying around. Zombie Gao now also had a name called Xiao Yu. At this time, facing Xiao Yu, although Xiao Xiong still did not understand the situation well. But the first task he gave her was to deal with all the zombies in front of her. After receiving the task, Xiao Yu still showed a blank face and did not say anything at all. But just as she breathed for the second time, her legs immediately lifted up to her head level and she shot an arrow straight into the head of one of the zombies, making it lower its face to the ground. Xiao Xiong did not have time to see what happened to the first one when he saw that the second one was grabbed by Xiao Yu's hand and then quickly pulled out from its body. The next technique of hers was attacked from below up and down, shooting an arrow that shattered one of its heads before it fell down, but Xiao Yu had prepared to look at two more. Then she brought out people who had killed two zombies at once. Everything happened in just 1 minute. Until Xiao Yu landed on the ground, she continued to jump like a cat straight upstairs. Her two hands hit down, then jumped again, 1 round and 1 arrow on each hand on each side, making 2 zombies explode into smoke fire. After finishing up, she kept maintaining this scene for about a few minutes, which made Cho Xiao Xiong also have to shout loudly. Zombie employees really could only appear at extreme situations. At this time Xiao Xiong sighed lightly, then scratched his head, thanking them for their help. Just as he finished speaking, then system announced that mission completed. Calculating reward from Master Xiao Xiong received mission reward basic box 100 points accumulated in opportunity withdraw. After receiving the reward, he opened basic box, checked all his food, even clothes. Not only that, the most important thing was that there were weapons inside. But he still didn't know what the system was, and what it wanted him to do. This arrow was not suitable for thinking too much, because it was the end of the world, and it was not strange to see these things. It would be better to try and see what he could get as a reward. Then, he pressed the system board and started to draw. The system board showed blue and green circles, very large, magnificent and splendid. A few seconds later, it announced that Xiao Xiong received a random reward and continued to change the color of the system to deliver the reward. The first gift he received was the item employee memory fragment of Xiao Yu. Surely this made Xiao Xiong curious, because he didn't know what it was for. He wondered if it was like video games. It looked very attractive on the outside, but he didn't know how to use it. As soon as he touched the fragment, a very loud explosion occurred, followed by a very strong light. A few seconds after the dust had almost disappeared, Xiao Xiong was teleported to a completely different place. In front of him was a prosperous real estate. But Xiao Xiong still didn't know where this was. Suddenly, a bald fat man walked through Xiao Xiong's body, making him even more confused. At this time, the fat man went and called the girl sitting at the table, Xiao Yu. After hearing that, Xiao Xiong determined that he was in her memory. No wonder other people couldn't see him, and he could even walk through them. The fat man began to express that he was a new employee who joined the company and contributed well to Xiao Yu. But she also knew the recent economic situation of the company was stagnant. So about the salary, as soon as he said that, Xiao Yu thought that, as a rural person who came to the city, her qualifications were not high enough to be saved by the boss. This made him very grateful. Therefore, this month only half of the salary was paid, and she never complained a word. After hearing that, the boss held his head helplessly because seeing his employee like this made him feel more ashamed. Then, he decided to pay the missing salary. That was considered as the company owed Xiao Yu, and when the situation improved, he would definitely pay in full. After hearing that, she smiled brightly, thanked the boss, and then the fat man left the office. He passed by Xiao Xiong, but he looked at him with a suspicious look. Inside the office, Xiao Yu held a handkerchief on her head and tied it on one side of her hair. In fact, this handkerchief was a part of her salary that she gave herself as a reward for the first time. At this time, sitting at the desk, she talked to herself alone, remembering how she escaped from that place. She had promised herself, no matter how hard it was, she would try to live well. So paying only half of her salary was nothing. She said, then took a deep breath and woke up her spirit. She thought that it was too late to have a day when she would have her own room and own house. Standing behind him, Xiao Xiong also breathed a sigh of relief. Because at that time Xiao Yu was very optimistic. Suddenly, all the scenes around him disappeared quickly. At this time, the system announced that it had activated a secondary task with details that a leader invited the master because of Xiao Yu's employee, and found the hairpin and remaining salary. The location of the task was the real estate market. The reward received was 20 points of loyalty from employees. Hearing this reward made Xiao Xiong wonder if this would determine the attitude of employees towards him. But then he agreed anyway because just now Xiao Yu had saved his life. Therefore he definitely would complete this task. There was one thing: those zombies on the other side still had to rely on her. After hearing that, Xiao Yu nodded her head. Then not long after, Xiao Xiong and Xiao Yu changed their new clothes and went to the task location. She wore an outfit very excellent with black and gold colors. Although he had seen it once before, but Xiao Xiong still had to shout loudly about his sister's fighting strength, which made people feel too lucky to be his employees. At this time both groups also arrived at the old office of Xiao Yu. While she dealt with zombies outside, he took advantage of looking for his hairpin in her memory, which was his work desk where she usually sat down. Now he crouched down, opened a drawer, suddenly saw the hairpin unexpectedly easy like that. Then he turned around, called Xiao Yu to inform. But immediately, the zombies behind them kept tumbling non-stop. On her side, there was only dust, furniture smashed to pieces, mixed with the zombies who couldn't hide their astonishment. Even when Xiao Xiong almost got hit by a zombie flying straight at him like an assassination. But looking at Xiao Yu's style, it seemed like he was addicted to killing zombies, not caring about the surroundings. At that moment, she suddenly glanced at Xiao Xiong, making him shiver. It turned out that the system issued a warning that the employee's loyalty was too low, which could lead to the employee not being able to distinguish the owner. At the same time, with that notification, there was Xiao Yu's shape with bullet-shaped eyes, his mouth breathing smoke like a car enthusiast. At this moment, Xiao Xiong was shocked to realize that this was the effect of loyalty points and asked Xiao Yu not to come over. As soon as he said that, he ran desperately to open the door. But when he got out of the room, the door closed very loosely. This seemed to be the second time he was chased by Xiao Yu. But this time the system would no longer help him stop her. Inside, Xiao Yu was still madly smashing the door, making Xiao Xiong feel that it couldn't hold on for long. So he had to hurry up and complete the task anyway, get the hairpin. But he didn't know where to find the salary. Suddenly, behind his back, an image appeared that made Xiao Xiong's attitude change color. It turned out that the fat boss had turned into a zombie, but still stood counting money in silence. Seeing that, he scolded him for standing back, rather than keeping quiet and startling others. Really, what the hell, the business situation was not good, it was all just a scam. His eyes in Xiao Yu's memory looked exactly like his best friend. They were all greedy bastards, even turning into zombies and still only counting money. At this time, behind his back, the sound of the door was still crisp, but even more violent. It urged Xiao Xiong to remember the word money. Then he went on, reached into the pile of money, promised to only take 2,000 yen that belonged to Xiao Yu, and left the rest to rot with him. But as soon as he got hold of the money, the fat man immediately grabbed Xiao Xiong's hand. At this moment, he still stared at him with a very naive face. And the fat man, his eyes bulging, made a creepy sound. Seeing this, Xiao Xiong immediately pulled out the knife and refused to let go. But he just kept his face twisted and held onto his hand. Seeing this, he used all his strength to back away 2 or 3 steps, grabbed the knife and swung it behind him. He wanted to test the sharpness of this weapon. Immediately, Xiao Xiong opened her mouth and bit off half of an old man's arm. Of course, it was sharper than many long legs. Then, he also asked the old man, "Are you ready?" Because the next thing is his own life. The next thing, Xiao Xiong continued to stab at the old man's body, but she didn't understand where the speed came from that made him throw away the knife on his hand. The weapon that he dedicated his life to, he hoped it had turned 180 degrees up in the air. As soon as Xiao Xiong was not focused, the old man screamed loudly and jumped up to knock him down. He ran up like a madman, releasing a terrifying speed, directly stabbing one into Xiao Xiong's side. At this moment, he still couldn't shoot out the next book. Because if like this, then he would be eaten by him. Then, Xiao Xiong reminded herself to stay calm and find a way to dodge. After looking around with her eyes closed, she saw a pile of money scattered on the ground. So he ran towards each coin with one hand. At this time, holding the money in his hand, Xiao Xiong called for attention to her money. Then she put it straight up in the air and smelled its smell. The old man changed his target and flew up with them to take them away without paying attention to Xiao Xiong anymore. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he quickly grabbed a knife nearby. He thought that a company like them would only turn employees into soulless corpses. The more he thought about it, the more crazy it was. Seeing him pick up money while looking back at him, then Xiao Xiong raised her knife straight up and declared that she would not allow such a company to exist anymore. Like that, Xiao Xiong slashed straight through two people's bodies. Because of this, he really wanted to create a company absolutely without any exploitation of employees by himself. Xiao Xiong wanted them as if they were family members themselves. A while later, after leaving the director's office, seeing Xiao Yu standing calmly outside, Xiao Xiong just saw her walk over and fix her hair bun. And apologized for finding it broken. He had fixed it a little bit. If not suitable, then don't get angry. At this point, he announced that he was done. But Xiao Yu still stood still, as if something had happened. Like that, Xiao Yu gradually looked up, making Xiao Xiong jump. He saw her smile for the first time. But then he scratched his head, thinking it was just an illusion. Like that, he started his career journey in the apocalypse. As he walked on the road to success, Xiao Xiong promised to find a way to gather all the memories for Xiao Yu. He didn't know what would happen after completing those pieces. He had already prepared for the end of his life. But he didn't expect to encounter a zombie incident, and also received an unexpected thing, which was the career system. So Xiao Xiong changed his attention, decided to live well in this hopeless world. It had been 5 days since he received the system. Xiao Xiong kept learning about it. In front of him, he had mastered 2 functions. One was the recruitment function, which was to recruit zombie employees. The second function was to complete tasks, which could receive rewards. Xiao Xiong believed that as long as he used these 2 functions well, he would soon establish a powerful army. At this time, he and Xiao Yu also coordinated very well, killing countless zombies in the days of survival. Xiao Xiong's mind was not so comfortable. He really felt like he had found himself again. Then, he asked the system if there was any new task. Then it announced, the task of accumulating supplies is to want to survive in the end times. Supplies are indispensable. The requirement is to collect 50 food and drink items. Note, in the backpack given is the storage space for items, which can contain everything unlimited. The reward received, 100 accumulation points, along with a chance to draw a prize. When he received this task, it was also the time when he was standing in front of the Dida supermarket. Then, he turned back and called Xiao Yu to go with him. But the more he called, the more she stood still. Seeing this, Xiao Xiong immediately asked Xiao Yu if she was uncomfortable anywhere. But suddenly, she ran out of the place, making Xiao Xiong feel that something was strange today. Then, he announced that he was going to enjoy the benefits. That only in times of crisis, it was just shopping without money. As soon as he entered inside, a zombie crowd surrounded him. But he was quickly killed by Xiao Yu, who kicked him like a ball. This made Xiao Xiong feel that today's attack power of Xiao Yu seemed to be lower. A few days ago, it was an incomprehensible scene. When the zombie hit him straight into the cabinet corner, then all the boxes fell out, making Xiao Xiong very excited. Thanks to it, he finally found some boxes. Fortunately, this place had 3 cans of food, but no meat. Not only that, he also went back to thank Xiao Yu for its amazing kick. But he couldn't finish his sentence before her attitude became very depressed. She felt numb and stood alone. Then he called her name loudly and she turned around with a sad face and wet eyes. Seeing this, Xiao Xiong immediately ran over to ask about her situation. But as soon as she stepped forward, she was caught by a zombie under her foot. This made him wonder why this zombie was kicked so lightly but still alive. The question just came up when he asked again and heard footsteps coming closer. Seeing this, he looked up and saw that all the zombies were still alive. Immediately after that, Xiao Xiong ran over and grabbed Xiao Yu's hand and ran away together and asked the system what happened. Why did she look so miserable? A few minutes later, the system revealed, Xiao Yu was in a state of hunger and all body functions gradually decreased one by one from level to level. After hearing this, he couldn't believe that zombies also knew hunger. Immediately asked the system, what should I do? Maybe I should feed her human flesh? The system announced, the boss can use accumulated points to exchange food supplements for staff energy. After hearing this, he immediately gave an order to exchange accumulated points immediately. The situation of the staff member is restless and is in the process of creating suitable food. Completion time, 30 minutes. As soon as he heard this, he felt very long. And the zombies there were getting more and more. Xiao Xiong didn't know why there were so many zombies here. They all looked bloody, messy, and fierce. There were dozens of them here, constantly moving towards him. At this point, Xiao Xiong wondered, could this really be the end of him? Just then, on the side, a voice came up, calling Xiao Xiong over here. Seeing that, he looked over and saw a girl who was still alive. Because everything was too urgent, Xiao Xiong had to grit his teeth and then, one hand pulled Xiao Yu, and the other hand chopped the zombies. Suddenly, among them, a zombie jumped out, blocking Xiao Xiong's footsteps. But at this point, facing it, he showed a more confident face. Xiao Xiong asked, don't you see that I'm anxious because I know the employee is starving? Then, his knife stabbed straight into the belly of the zombie, with a very terrifying force, making both him and it run a very long distance. At this point, when he got into the room that the girl had designated, Xiao Xiong thanked her, because just now, if it weren't for her support, the two of them would have met here. But at this point, a knife was behind his neck, and the person holding it was the strange girl. She reminded Xiao Xiong not to thank him and asked him to hand over all the food he had found. Inside, there was not only her, but also some other people who were still alive. Everyone had a knife in their hand, and they all stuck to the net and asked for food. The strange girl said that she didn't want to hurt Xiao Xiong, she just needed food. So, please. At this point, he determined that the enemy was many, he was few, and he could only pretend to compromise while waiting for Xiao Yu to recover. Then, Xiao Xiong reassured everyone, calmly promised to give them everything he had. First, he took out a box of beans, gave it to them to eat like starving. Seeing that, Xiao Xiong stood behind and reminded them to eat slowly, because there was enough for them. Suddenly, the strange girl turned to thank him and expressed that the food in the warehouse had run out for 3 days, they had nothing to eat, and they were starving to madness. So, she was very sorry for the rude action just now. Actually, they were not like this, but because of the zombies, everything had changed. After listening, Xiao Xiong thought he could understand, because everyone was just trying to survive. Then, he secretly thought that he didn't expect these people to rather starve to death in the warehouse, than risk going out to find food. Indeed, the nightmare was very scary. Just then, a big-bellied man came, using a voice of a lifetime to share. He added more food and water to them. But suddenly, an old man behind him shouted angrily. He was sure that Xiao Xiong was so generous that she still had a lot left. If he added a little more, everyone would see how foolish he was. He looked down on a group of weak people. When he met zombies, he was afraid to lose his mask, but when he saw other people being cruel to each other, he was very enthusiastic. As soon as he finished his sentence, many strings of wires flew into his body. They were actually from the old man behind him who sneaked up. The old man reminded Xiao Xiong to investigate carefully and judge others properly. Seeing this, a girl with a strange face who looked like Tu Vong ran over to remind him. Xiao Xiong was the one who gave him food. Why could she do that? But at this moment, the old man slapped her face with his hand and said that Tu Vong didn't know anything. He taught her that the world had ended. If they didn't steal from others now, others would steal from them later. After hearing this, Xiao Xiong had to accept her fate, admit her failure and promise to give everything to them. Then they started fighting over his backpack of food, insulting each other and looking very violent. In front of Xiao Yu's eyes, suddenly from behind the house on the roof, there was a loud noise of something breaking out. Then slowly from the holes for ventilation, there came out a hair like that of a monkey's tail. At this time, Xiao Xiong screamed because they kept tearing up his food on him. He was already tied up so he couldn't resist anymore. Then Xiao Xiong started to worry because she still had a knife in her body. If it was taken away, it would be very troublesome. Suddenly an audacious idea came up in his head. Immediately Xiao Xiong announced that there was a meat box in it which she had tied around her waist. After hearing this, everyone felt like they heard their names called to heaven. They all showed great enthusiasm, hugged each other, and looked closely at his waist. The old man scolded Xiao Xiong for not telling them sooner. Next, they started arguing about who deserved to get the food. When the meat box fell out of his waist, he took advantage of this opportunity. Xiao Xiong watched their fastest movements. Immediately, he kicked straight, and it flew to one side. Seeing that, the crowd of them all looked after the food box. And then, they chased after it like zombies chasing human flesh. A guy wearing glasses spat out and asked, "A bunch of fat pigs also want to eat with me. Are you as fast as me?" And then, he also saw the meat box kicked to the corner of the wall. Then, he crawled under the cabinet and took out the meat box. He said, "I won't be rude." At this time, the two fat old people realized the harm of being overweight. They were only a few steps slower and lost the food right in their mouth. After running a distance, the fat woman also discovered a food box on the ground, and kept jumping back to it. From behind, Little King ran after them, running and advising them to calm down and sober up. At this time, the fat woman was about to reach out and take the food, but she fell to the ground in horror, making Little King ask in a loud voice. The fat man screamed for help from everyone, but his wife behind him was wrapped tightly by the octopus's beard. The scene before his eyes made Little King stunned. At the same time, Xiao Xiong was still struggling with the rope that was too tight, unable to move. He looked up and saw them running back to the place. He panicked and wondered why they came back. But at this time, Little King quickly untied Xiao Xiong and reminded him to run fast. On the other side, Little Stupid sniffed his nose as if he smelled something. On this side, Xiao Xiong still asked Little King what happened that she was so panicked. But Little King only stuttered 3 words, "Eaten already." After hearing that, Xiao Xiong thought that she meant that people had been eaten by zombies. But Little King's hand became more and more nimble, constantly denying. Suddenly his senses seemed to alert him of something, because he heard a very loud noise. Immediately, Xiao Xiong only had time to hug Little King's head. The door in front of Little Stupid was broken by the monster. Suddenly, not far away, a monster that looked like a mutated octopus appeared. It roared and kept smashing its beard on the ground. The monster did not hesitate to chase after the survivors like they chased after the meat box just now. That way, it succeeded, chewing almost all of the person of one of them. He saw this scene. Xiao Xiong seemed stunned. At the back of the door, Fat Guy was too scared to die and wanted to leave this place. He got close to the door. Seeing this, Xiao Xiong turned around and asked him not to open the door. But then finally, Fat Guy cowardly still opened the door. Immediately, Fat Guy became a buffet for zombies to enter from the door. At this time, Xiao Xiong showed a helpless face. He looked at the door from there, many zombies coming in one after another. While fighting with them, Xiao Xiong also identified that he was like a monkey and not as strong as Xiao Yu. He only needed to prolong his time a little bit and it would be fine. Now he was facing the enemy. At this time, the system kept sending warnings about dangerous work. Meanwhile, in reality, those zombies were quickly killed by Khan Bok Tuok, who transformed into a zombie and hit them hard until they died. At this time, a girl with a strange face who looked like Tu Vong ran away behind Xiao Yu's back. Xiao Xiong at the front also saw her, but at this moment, a zombie came to look for him. Seeing this, Xiao Xiong used his hand to punch straight into its chest and then asked himself, maybe my life will have to stop here? But in his heart he never wanted such things to happen. The system also sent notifications that his work faced extremely great danger. It opened up a new function called cooperation with employees. As soon as it activated this function, Xiao Yu was wearing 2 jackets outside and emitting a bloodstream from her body. At this time, Xiao Xiong touched his bloodstream and it changed into a circle running around his body. Then on his hand there were strings of wires like those of Xiao Yu. When he wondered how this cooperation work was done, like zombies did something strange in front of him, but before that, a zombie came running towards him. He Thong didn't have time to explain its content to Ti Chu. But immediately, Xiao Xiong threw out a light punch, making that zombie fall down. At the same time, at the girl with a strange face who was being attacked by another one, Xiao Xiong used Xiao Yu's strength quickly on his hand holding an axe and cut through its body, killing that zombie here. He didn't need to explain anything because based on what he just saw, he already knew what kind of plan this cooperation was. This form helps Xiao Xiong synchronize his energy with employees, which means exactly synchronize parameters. When he smelled zombies attacking behind him, it was also at that moment when it ate an apple from Xiao Yu's hand. She had an apple big enough. The system announced that Xiao Yu had recovered. At this moment he breathed easier because she was here, making it easier. Then he looked at those zombies who transformed into something strange, wondering if they could solve it in 2 or 3 minutes. The basic question was just wanting something to talk about, so for those 2 people, those zombies didn't have clear teeth. The 2 of them got ready to rush to face the octopus. Xiao Xiong always turned to the left, then right after that, Xiao Yu attacked to the right. Finally, the 2 of them escaped from its octopus tentacles and flew to the level of the octopus's head. At this time, he called Xiao Yu to be ready, and then the 2 of them coordinated well, one slashed and one punched. Then they didn't need from 2 to 3 minutes, but only in a blink of an eye, the octopus was smashed into hundreds of pieces. Below, the group of looters just now were really amazed, relieved. Fortunately, Xiao Xiong didn't compare with them. A while later, he finally completed the task. He immediately informed Xiao Yu, continued the journey, resting while walking. At this time, the strange-faced girl ran over, called Xiao Xiong to wait a minute and expressed that she and her brother really didn't know how to survive in this situation. So, could you help the 2 of us follow along? But as soon as she said that, Xiao Xiong uttered a decisive no. Before leaving, he also left a balloon bag, inside which there were food, water and weapons. Maybe it would be enough for the 2 of them to hold on for a while. Plus, just now Xiao Xiong dealt with the octopus to save her and her brother. It was considered to have fully repaid the favor for letting him hide in the warehouse. But Xiao Xiong was a person who lived by the absolute principle that he would not act with someone who had pointed a knife at him. Before leaving, Xiao Xiong wished the 2 of them good luck and called Xiao Yu to start walking on the road. He remembered that he still had a chance to draw an experiment for collecting, so he called the system to start drawing rewards. Xiao Xiong turned around and prayed to the ancestors to bless the item this time. But suddenly, what appeared before his eyes made him extremely stunned, like a cold sound across his ears. Unexpectedly, the system also had this thing appear before Xiao Xiong's eyes, which was a bread and a cup of coffee. Although he hadn't eaten for a long time, he also felt a bit nostalgic, but he still always felt that he had wasted a draw. At the same time, behind him, there was still a dog that always stared at the food in Xiao Xiong's hand. Seeing that, he immediately discovered that he moved the bread to one side, then Xiao Yu's eyes immediately glanced over there. And then, Xiao Xiong had to give her half of his share. A few seconds later, the system announced that the owner gave Xiao Yu her favorite food, which was daily breakfast. Loyalty increased by 10%, the employee's goodwill level reached 30%, and unlocked the first skill. At this time, he realized that increasing loyalty also unlocked new abilities. This was too profitable. Then, he reminded her that if she wanted to eat anything, just say it, he would definitely prepare it for her. At this time, Xiao Xiong was invited to choose one of the 3 skills below to equip for Xiao Yu. He thought it was a good idea, but if he could try a little bit before confirming, then it would probably taste better. The 3 skills on the screen are Divine Strength, Immortal Strength, and Lightning Strike. Be careful, you can open the skill testing system of the employees, but each type can only be tested once. The boss chooses the skill he wants to keep after the test. After the test ends, it is indeed a wish come true. He immediately calls Xiao Yu to test her skills. By chance, 2 days ago, while doing a mission, Xiao Xiong accidentally discovered that this place has an empty terrain with a moderate number of zombies, which is very suitable for testing skills. At the large port in front of him, there are not many zombies here. They are still wandering around at the edge of the port. Sitting on a pallet, Xiao Xiong announces that the new skill test will begin. First is to open Lightning Strike skill. She receives an immediate task and brings him to the front like a flying torch. When she sees the integration distance, she immediately lowers one leg. Her other hand emits countless lightning streams. Just by punching into the air, it makes all zombies in front of her crazy and hit them with closed pallets. On this side, Xiao Xiong witnesses that with just one punch it can be so harmful like this, which is very surprising. Lightning Strike skill reduces 20% attack and speed, but compensates for receiving attack by turning it into multiple target attack and has a chance to cause paralysis effect. It can scan zombies in a wide range with high efficiency. Really not bad. Then Xiao Xiong continues to open system number 2, which is Immortal Strength. After obtaining the Immortal Strength system in his hand, he directly presses on Skill Orb. Immediately, yellow stream flows straight into Xiao Yu's body. Since activating power, all zombies standing around her all look at Xiao Yu without blinking. Xiao Xiong sees this, predicts that this is an ability to attract hatred. Taking advantage of the opportunity, they all look at themselves. Xiao Yu immediately raises her fist, but does not need to touch their faces. The zombie group there has been wiped out. Not only that, Xiao Xiong also discovers a new point, which is that her wounds on her body are gradually closing up. She has recovered from wounds. Using this ability to attract firepower, then nothing can match it. Immortal Strength reduces 30% attributes after defeating zombies. Can recover vitality and wounds at a small rate. As for the food needs of the last employee, Xiao Xiong decided to order the system to open the remaining skill, which was Berserk War God. He felt that the name of this skill was quite buff, so he looked for a place to hide, lest it would be like before when Xiao Yu killed until she went crazy, and then turned around and demanded his life. As its name suggests, she raised her face to the sky, letting her hair fly wildly. As if behind her there was a terrifying stream of power backing her up, then when she turned her head back to normal with sharp eyes, and at the same time the speed of her arms was also so fast that it mutated. With this skill, Xiao Yu just had to run a path, and the zombies seemed to have become dead in the pile of burning fire. Standing far away, Xiao Xiong observed this skill, which was indeed better than all the skills just now. After a few seconds of slaughtering those guys, she noticed the ones nearby flipping cats, straight down aiming at them. And then, in just a blink of an eye, the zombies flew into the air to the point of blowing up a whole port. At this time, a zombie had just flown up to enjoy the feeling of living like a bird, then immediately a hand pulled his head down, directly killing him. Seeing that, Xiao Xiong and Xiao Yu immediately looked attentively at the person on top of the cargo box. A zombie that looked quite cool and buff had appeared. Seeing its horns, he guessed it was a mutant zombie. And once again, he called Xiao Yu to deal with it, received the task. She jumped straight up to the middle, then used both legs to kick towards the mutant zombie. But the mutant zombie just had to raise his hand and he could completely block the earth-shaking kick of Xiao Yu. This made Xiao Xiong also have to gape because Xiao Yu's attack when in the state of Berserk War God was blocked so easily. After a while of observation, Xiao Xiong felt that this was not right. Because this one was completely different from the zombies he had met. The effect of Berserk War God was about to end, then the two of them would be in big trouble if they didn't quickly solve it. Right after that, Xiao Xiong ran to start the cooperation mode. Done, he ordered Xiao Yu to retreat and immediately, the two of them ran under the chase of that mutant zombie. But what Xiao Xiong couldn't imagine was that it ran extremely fast. Just ran to the end of the road, then suddenly he saw someone blocking it in the cargo hold. Immediately, Xiao Xiong pulled out his weapon, thinking it was a zombie, but at this time, Lin Bai covered his face with his hand, screamed and begged not to kill me. As soon as he heard that, he realized that it was a living person. He directly grabbed his backpack and pulled it along to avoid the chase of that zombie. Seeing that, Lin Bai wondered and told Xiao Xiong to calm down a bit, don't panic like that. But as soon as he finished his sentence and turned back to see the mutant zombie, he seemed to change his mood 180 degrees dizzy. Then just like that, 100-pound meat is chasing after Xiao Xiong. As he runs, he reminds himself not to lose his spirit, because zombie BND are also zombies, and there must be a way to deal with them. After running for a while, Xiao Xiong leads Lin Bai to a narrow alley on the right. But suddenly they find out that it is a dead end from behind zombie BND, and he lets out a loud noise like he is completely furious. Seeing this, Xiao Yu turns his eyes back, and directly shoots at him face to face. But from afar, Xiao Xiong sees this scene, and guesses that Xiao Yu has no chance of winning. He has to quickly think of a way to trick zombie Whitehair Kia. Suddenly at this moment, Xiao Xiong smells something similar to gasoline coming from the 3 cans of Lin Bai. Then he tells him to give his cans of gasoline to him. This makes Lin Bai wonder if he still wants to steal them now, but he shouts loudly, "Don't talk nonsense. To survive, give it to me." Hearing this, Lin Bai also has no choice but to take them down and give them to Xiao Xiong with an indifferent face. After receiving the 3 cans containing gasoline, he calls Xiao Yu back. When she is about to come back again, Xiao Xiong directly throws the 3 cans on the ground and was hit by a wave of zombie white hair. At this time, the 2 cans break apart and let out gasoline that leaks out violently. The gasoline pile falls down like a rainstorm straight on top of zombie Whitehair's head. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Xiao Xiong pulls out in front and lights up, then shoots straight back at it. Only one collision occurs, making an entire dead end where they just stood explode from inside. Burning zombie Whitehair with a rotten body, as if about to be burned up, leaves only one leg to run away. Seeing this, Xiao Xiong quickly pulls Lin Bai away, running for a long distance, also escaping from the port area. At this time Xiao Xiong feels very excited because he has returned from hell. But also may have some gasoline left of Lin Bai. Unlike his mood, he hugs his head helplessly. Then Van, live then live okay, but how now? Behind him Xiao Xiong still doesn't know his mood, so he opens a new mission, Complete 100 assigned missions, and each time completing an assigned mission will depend on how difficult it is. You will receive corresponding rewards accordingly. Turning around then sees Lin Bai still in his head scratching, not knowing what to do. Because without materials, Lin Bai is afraid that he will be dragged away by Man's sister and eaten by zombies. Xiao Xiong immediately runs over and asks Lin Bai if he wants to hire him. Not at the same time, at an abandoned apartment building, two young men are looking through binoculars, feeling like today there are more zombies than yesterday. However, they also have to endure because their group always has someone who goes in and will attract the attention of zombies. Inside their base, no one cared about each other. Outside, Xiao Xiong ran into the apartment complex, shouting 2 words completed as he ran, making Lin Bai chase after him exhaustedly. At this time, the system announced the difficulty level of the D-level mission. The entrustor was Lin Bai. The mission was to protect the target to the designated location safely. The entrustment was completed and received 20 accumulation points. Currently, Xiao Xiong's accumulation points were 62. At this time, he realized that only the mainline missions gave the opportunity to draw rewards, while the rest were added to the accumulation points. Every 100 accumulation points could be exchanged for 1 draw. It seemed that it also had many uses. Just at this time, the person on the upper floor pointed a gun straight at Xiao Xiong, because he had trespassed on their territory. Seeing this, Lin Bai spoke up, and as soon as he saw him, his name was Horsehair Pompadour, he asked about the 2 people who came with Lin Bai. After listening, he said that he had encountered some trouble and couldn't get the materials. Xiao Xiong and Xiao Yu saved him. So he wanted to take them back to meet the leader. After listening, Horsehair Pompadour scolded him as a waste, then announced that the big sister was on the rooftop and would lead them up. On the way to the rooftop, Xiao Xiong muttered that he didn't expect to see such a clean place. Hearing this, the girl who led the way said that this hospital was not put into use when they occupied it. So the construction was still relatively intact. Seeing this, Xiao Xiong expressed that he thought everything would be very chaotic in this era, but he didn't expect people to still have discipline. Contrary to his mood, from behind, Lin Bai seemed very worried. As they walked, the guide chatted that they also relied on a powerful leader to arrange everything neatly and orderly. Everyone had their own work and tasks. At the same time, training was taking place on the rooftop. And below, the guide informed Lin Bai that he had returned and brought 2 new people. At this time, they reached the door of the rooftop and heard the loud voice of a girl scolding, "Don't just run, but rush up and kill it. Give me the people in front of me." She timidly expressed that this was her first time in actual combat, but before she could finish, the leader shouted at them to shut up and asked them if they thought zombies would give humans a second chance like this. Think carefully about what the characteristics of zombies are. As soon as he finished, a person who was training started reading. The first is that zombies are afraid of light. Exposure to sunlight or high-intensity light will make their movements sluggish. To the second thing, the person standing next to him continued reading, zombies are very sensitive to sound. At this time, the leader slammed the baseball bat down, reading the third thing, hit them straight in the head. After listening, they obeyed, but just at this time, the guide informed the leader that Lin Bai had returned. She immediately asked Lin Bai if he had gotten a lot of materials. Lin Bai stood behind, stuttering and admitting that he didn't get anything. Seeing this, the leader put on a serious face, and with a steel voice asked Lin Bai, "Then why did you come back? Without fuel, the high-pressure lights can't be turned on. The rookies can't train in actual combat at night. You promised 3 times and I also gave you 3 chances. What is the result?" Hearing those words, the leader scolded Lin Bai as a waste who was not worthy of trust and directly kicked him out of the territory before tonight. Then, she pointed the baseball bat straight at Xiao Xiong and declared that their territory did not need people introduced by waste, so go away with him. After listening, Xiao Xiong sighed and reminded the leader not to rush to drive people away like that. Then, he said that he came here to do business. Seeing this, the leader showed a surprised face, and then laughed mockingly. Then she asked Xiao Xiong, "This place of ours has a place to sleep, food, drink, and military medical equipment. What about you? Only 2 people want to trade with me, don't play tricks." But immediately, those metal barrels suddenly collided with each other because of the pull of the zombies that escaped from that rope. As a result, they rushed to attack the people who were training. At this time, one of those people noticed that the sun had set, making the zombies stronger and stronger. He kept calling the leader to save his life. Seeing this, Xiao Xiong waved his hand, giving orders to Xiao Yu. Immediately, she stared at the zombies, then moved her legs to 2 corners at a 180-degree angle. Seeing this, the guide and the trainees were very astonished. They didn't know what she was going to do. At this time, Xiao Xiong spoke up. "We need fuel, I can help. Just me and Lin Bai stay in the camp." At this time, none of them said anything, because they all looked at the battle of Xiao Yu with those zombies. Seeing this, Xiao Xiong reminded them to trust him, because in this era, friends can't rely too much on, and even for some reasons, the female leader might die at their hands. But doing business is different. As long as there's profit, Xiao Xiong is the most trustworthy person for her. This is called an ally. A while later, Xiao Xiong was on the road to do the mission. As he walked, he complained, "I don't understand, the sun is about to go out," but Wang Shui still forced Xiao Xiong to lead to department store. "That place is the den of zombies, there is no water, no electricity." He didn't know what to do there. After hearing that, Van Tui agreed to take on this job because Xiao Xiong had agreed to it. And if he got it, then don't fight with each other in the mission from the system. He also received a mission from the system to escort the target to the designated location, with a difficulty level of E. At the time he was on the rooftop, the leader introduced him as nervous but determined, but he had always followed them since the end of the world began. After hearing that, Xiao Xiong was curious and asked him what he wanted him to do with him. At this time, the leader revealed his new mission: go to department store and play. He only did it because he wanted to stay at that place and make money. So Xiao Xiong had to go with that weird guy on a trip. While walking casually, he heard the sound of zombies behind him. Seeing this, Xiao Xiong reminded Van Tui to stick close to him. But Xiao Xiong didn't have time to see where he was either, so immediately an attack came straight at the head of a zombie. When he turned back to look, he saw Van Tui holding an axe and revealing that he came here not to play but to look for his father. Seeing his action just now, Xiao Xiong realized that at this camp must be very hard to train. Then he reminded him that the survival rate in this era is very small. But Van Tui thought he knew that and just wanted to confirm if his father had become a zombie or not. If it's true, Van Tui declared that he would kill himself for his father just after hearing the statement, making Xiao Xiong speechless too, not knowing how to answer back how. Immediately after that, he received a content from UI Thok is help customer kill target mission change with difficulty level also changed into B, returning back at around time not yet happened Tan that at department store, father of Van Tui pretended to be a bear doing magic show for those who walk by. Van Tui had asked his father why he liked doing tricks like that for people like that before hearing this. Just after hearing this, he said he look at those people walking by here. Everyone has gone through lonely periods, sad periods, and miserable periods. If by chance someone who lost their spirit sees it again, they perform. Then wake up again, what? After hearing this, Van Tui still doubted if his father was lying, but he looked at his face and voice so strongly until everyone who heard it also had faith. He admitted himself as Bear Brownie with magic, and this statement went deep into subconscious of Van Tui until now. While entering inside the department store, he says that if Cha Min becomes a zombie, then Onai definitely cannot forgive himself for becoming a monster-eating human. After hearing this, Xiao Xiong guessed why didn't Kwa Van Tui want come here do work alone. But entering inside, Xiao Xiong again felt very strange because reached Tang Ba without seeing Shadow 1 zombie anywhere. Hope they are not resting somewhere. Suddenly, Xiao Xiong flashlight looked forward, then found monster no longer human shape above them like zombie, but bottom very evil. Immediately, this zombie screamed and sat on the control of the monster below to attack the survivors. The monster ran at an incredible speed. Following the scream of the zombie above, at this time, the other zombies hiding around, hearing the scream, also slowly crawled out of this group, smelling the smell of raw meat. Of course, bloodthirsty, they rushed with a fierce face. Xiao Xiong couldn't imagine that he had also encountered a mutant zombie. Then, he ordered Xiao Yu to take action. Receiving the task, she started to get into a defensive position. Then right after that, she kicked an attack that made the zombies fly away in dust. Xiao Xiong looked for a way, but also met another group of zombies. So he realized that the whole camp. No one was willing to lead Wang Shui, there was a reason. At the same time, on this side, Xiao Yu dodged the zombies with magnetic power, wanting to aim at the monster when she had determined the distance clearly. Right next to the zombie's flank, Xiao Yu immediately raised a leg, turned around and kicked straight into the whole body of the monster below. At this time, the zombie above was still very stunned. Then right after that, he looked over and saw Xiao Yu's presence. Seeing this, it screamed, ready to rush to attack her. But inexplicably, a loud noise fell straight towards it. In just a blink of an eye, the monster had turned into smoke and fire. The whole first floor of department store was only dust. At this time, Xiao Xiong immediately called Xiao Yu, but didn't see her anywhere in the dust. Then, he switched the target to Wang Shui. Hurry up and find a safe place to hide first. But he was stunned by Xiao Xiong's urging. Slowly, a hand of Wang Shui raised, as if he saw something very astonishing. It turned out that from afar, the brown bear that his father pretended to be slowly walked over. Seeing the figure of the bear, Wang Shui was stunned and hesitated to imagine the scene of his father smiling with him. But that body kept moving closer. At this time, Xiao Xiong ran over, wanting to help him temporarily avoid. But Wang Tui refused and told Xiao Xiong, "Go quickly, save Xiao Yu. I will take care of this by myself." After hearing that, he hesitated a bit. But Wang Tui still insisted, "Don't forget what Ui Thok is." Seeing that, Xiao Xiong accepted and warned him to be careful. Then he climbed up the broken walls secretly, showing that he was not a normal guy. On the other side there was a zombie going crazy and rushed towards him and was immediately killed by a punch of Xiao Yu.